It's time to finish up the 40-man roster breakdown series with the starting rotation.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. I'm a diehard Marlins fan, and I've podcasted about the team for the last 4 seasons. You can find me on Twitter at Jeremiah Geiger2, and thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, leave a like, and let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. And on today's show, I've been doing a 40-man roster breakdown. We're going to finish it up right here with the starting rotation. We've talked about the catchers, the infielders, the outfielders, the bullpen. Now it's time to focus on the starting rotation. And I want to preface this with saying that the 40-man roster as currently constructed, it's not going to remain the same, of course. We're going to see changes, but that's part of the fun in doing a show like this, is you're going to hear me or watch me, if you're watching on the YouTube channel, give my takes on the pitchers who are currently here, and we're going to see if they come true. Are they going to be part of the long-term future of this team? Are they simply placeholders? How are they going to perform in 2026? There's a lot of questions, a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it. I also want to say that the Marlins this season started 12 pitchers. Not that 12 pitchers started a game, 12 starting pitchers made starts for the Marlins, if that makes sense. I'm excluding openers. So although Anthony Veneziano made a start, I'm not counting him. I'm not counting Lake Bacher or Cade Gibson. I am going to count Tyler Phillips because there's a possibility that in 2026 Phillips could get stretched out. And I talked about this on the show with Kyle Seeloff last week, and he mentioned that the possibility of Phillips, getting stretched out to be a starter. He was a starting pitcher during his time in the Phillies organization and made 8 or 9 starts for the big league club. So if the Marlins need rotation depth, and we're going to talk about that depth because I do think it's in a good place, Phillips can be that guy. So, but I want to start the first segment by talking about the big three. And the big three, if you haven't guessed by now, it's the three-headed monster: Edward Cabrera, Sandy Alcantara, and Eury Perez. Those guys give you a chance to win a series, to win any series, no matter who you're competing against. If you're up against the Phillies for a 3-game set, a 4-game set, and you have those 3 pitchers lined up back-to-back-to-back days, I feel pretty good in at least having a shot. And there's a lot that goes into winning a baseball game. You obviously need the offense to show up. You have to be dialed in to your side of the game as the pitcher. But Cabrera, Perez, Sandy, those guys are really good. Cabrera enjoyed a breakout season. Just a terrific year from Edward Cabrera that Marlins fans were waiting and hoping he would realize his potential. He finally did. Made 26 starts, an ERA of 3.53, struck out 150 in 137 2/3 innings. He led the Marlins in strikeouts. There was a lot of rumors at the beginning of this, or midway through the season rather, that Cabrera was going to get traded. He was the prime trade deadline target for a contending ball club. The Marlins held fast. They didn't move him. And I think it was a great decision, because my take on this show is that if the Marlins are serious about competing in 2026, if they're feeling good about the position that they're in with this rebuild and the 17-game win improvement from a season ago, then there's no reason, and it would be malpractice to trade Cabrera or Sandy. Obviously, Eury Perez, he's untouchable. He's not going anywhere. But the trade rumors were at an all-time high right before the deadline. Was Cabrera going to get traded? Was Sandy going to get traded? It certainly felt like one of them would be gone. Hopefully not both. The Marlins, they kept both. They didn't move anybody from those two. The only trades they really made were trading outfielder Jesus Sanchez and catcher Nick Fortes, who was expendable. And both those players were expendable. But I just have this feeling that it would be a mistake, and that's my take, it would be a mistake to trade away one of those three. These are your guys. These are your aces. You win built upon the shoulders of pitching. That's what the Marlins organization believes in, because that's what they're good at. This team is so good at developing pitchers, and you have no further to look towards than Philadelphia and see what the Phillies do, because the Phillies are built on pitching. Yes, they have a formidable lineup as well. Don't get me wrong. And they have a lot more money than the Marlins. But can you imagine this Phillies team in October if Zach Wheeler had stayed healthy? And they still have a really good rotation in the playoffs. Christopher Sanchez is dealing. You have Jesus Luzardo. I know Aaron Nola had a down season, but for years he was really, really good. So I do believe in building your organization around pitching, and I think the Marlins do that very well. Sandy Alcantara came off of Tommy John surgery and struggled. There was no doubt about it. He was not himself. He didn't look right. It looked like the 2022 Cy Young version was gone, and it wasn't coming back. And then guess what? He flipped the script. He turned the page, and the back half of the season, he was phenomenal. He looked like how Sandy Alcantara is supposed to look. Post All-Star break, Sandy Alcantara, 13 starts, went 7-3 with an ERA of 3.33, 83 2/3 innings, a whip of 1.04. That's Sandy Alcantara right there. It's not the April-May version of himself when he couldn't get anybody out. Sandy's 30 years old. He's still young. There's plenty of gas left in the tank. And so the same logic applies to him. Yeah, there's going to be trade rumors. Hold on to him. This offseason, build. Don't tear away from what you've already established. You've already established that you have one of the best 1-2-3 punches, 1-2-3 combos in baseball. So keep going with it. And that's what the biggest storyline for the Marlins this offseason. Yes, it's the free agents. How active are they going to be in free agency? Yes, you could look at it as spending money in general, contract extensions. But for me, it's what do they do with the existing core that they have in the rotation, especially with the previous year being the whole storyline in 2025 this past season was, are they going to trade Cabrera? Are they going to trade Sandy? And before 2025, the question was not when they're going, or not if they're going to trade Sandy, it was when. And now I think it's time for that narrative to switch. So coming up next, we're going to talk about the next three that the Marlins have. I don't think they're at the same level of Eury or Sandy or Cabrera, but there's a lot of potential with these guys. That's coming up right after this. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel gives you so many ways to play. You can build parlays, try player props, go into the live line section during the games and do some live action bets. Or if you're feeling pretty risky, go with an underdog money line bet. I know the Patriots just won against the Bills last night. That was an upset. There are so many options. Whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. And remember, if your first $5 bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets. I appreciate all the everyday listeners who make Locked On Marlins a part of your routine. 40-man roster breakdown continuing the series, finishing up the series today. So we've done all the other position groups. The next three I want to talk about, we've talked about how good Sandy and Eury and Edward are. Now let's go on to the next three on the 40-man roster. And to me, it's pretty simple. Ryan Weathers, Braxton Garrett, and Janson Junk. And you're going to say, Braxton Garrett, he didn't even pitch in 2025. How can you have him as being in the next tier? And I'm going to say to you, when the Marlins made the playoffs in 2023, Braxton Garrett had himself a year. I mean, this guy was phenomenal in 2023. He started 30 games, 159 2/3 of an inning, an ERA of 3.66, and struck out 156. And that's after 2022, where he had 17 starts under his belt and an ERA of 3.58. Don't sleep on Braxton Garrett. That's my number one piece of advice to all the listeners out there for today's show. Garrett's coming back. He's healthy, and he's going to have a spot in this rotation. Unless everything has fallen apart for him and the team watches him and something's not right, but there's no indication that that's going to be the case, then I don't see why Garrett can't get back to his old form, because we see what he can be as a pitcher. Garrett is a pitcher. He's not a thrower, and that's a good thing. You know, some guys go up there and they throw 98, 99 miles an hour, but they don't have a clue where the ball's going. Think of Tayron Guerrero from a few years back. Elite arm talent, no control. He wasn't a pitcher. He was a thrower. Garrett is the complete opposite. He's going to sit in the low 90s. He's going to paint the corners, and then he's going to work his secondaries off of that and still rack up strikeouts. And you're going to walk back to the dugout thinking, this guy is not really blowing the fastball by me, but I can't time it up. I'm getting confused with the curveball, reading it out of the hand. It's got elite movement to it. And you're going to say, I'm 0 for 3 with a couple strikeouts against this guy, and it's the 7th inning. That's Braxton Garrett, man. Really excited for his return to the Marlins. I think it's a very underrated player we're talking about here. Because he's not flashy, because he doesn't have the prospect pedigree like Eury Perez did or the hardware like Sandy does. Garrett's going to be very solid if he stays healthy. The other pitcher that the health has to apply here is Ryan Weathers. And we're at the point now with Ryan Weathers where I wonder, is this going to be a concern? Is this just something we're going to have to deal with year in and year out? Because the talent's there. The stuff is there. Former first-round pick, throws 99 miles an hour. Great pitcher. But he can't stay healthy. And 2026 is going to be the last season before that title of just an injury-riddled pitcher, what could have been, when will he ever reach his full potential, when those terms are going to be starting to get tossed around with Ryan Weathers. For the record, I think Ryan Weathers is great. I think he's one of the best, more talented pitchers, most talented pitchers, correct term there, that the Marlins currently have on their team, in their organization. There's a reason they traded for him. And with all due respect for Garrett Cooper, and shout out Sean Barrett, who's the biggest Garrett Cooper fan I know, and Garrett Cooper just retired, by the way. Happy retirement to him. That was a highway robbery from the Marlins and to the Padres, getting Max Meyer, getting Ryan Weathers. And we'll talk about Max Meyer later on in the show. But I really love Ryan Weathers as a pitcher. I just need to see him stay healthy. You can't go into 2026 starting on the injured list again. You can't finish 2026 with 40 innings pitched, and we're right back here where it started all over, saying the same things again and again. Because if Weathers stays healthy, and if Garrett returns to form from that 2023 season, then we're looking at the 5 pitchers now: Weathers, Garrett, Sandy, Eury, and Edward, all of whom are above average, in my opinion. There's not a subpar pitcher there. There's not a pitcher that I just named that you'd say, well, I don't know what the Marlins are doing throwing that guy out there. But here's the issue. Injuries happen, and you have to account for that. You can't go into a season looking at 5 or 6 guys only and saying this is who we're rocking with, because it's baseball. We know that's not reality. Ideally, it would be great, but that's a utopia. It's not based in reality. Pitchers get hurt. It's just how it works. It's how it works every single season for every single team. And some teams get luckier than others. Some teams just can't catch a break. But if you're the Marlins, you have to be prepared in that regard. So the final pitcher in the second tier, if you will, is Janson Junk. And to me, this is the most fascinating storyline from this second tier, because Ryan Weathers and Braxton Garrett stay healthy. That's all I ask. We kind of know who they are as pitchers when they're healthy on the mound. And you can say that 2024 season from Garrett was poor. Yeah, but we don't know how he was feeling with his body, because he ended up getting shut down and ended up getting surgery. So maybe he was affected by injury throughout the year. I expect Garrett to be more like that 2023 version. But with Janson Junk, 16 starts, 21 games, minor league free agent, came out of nowhere, pitched to a 4.17 ERA, 110 innings, 77 strikeouts, so he's more of a pitch to contact guy. Guess how many walks he had? And you can pause the video, pause the podcast, pull over, take a second to think about this. 110 innings, 13 walks. That's crazy. Elite command from Mr. Junk. And you can't take that lightly. That's somebody that you want in your organization, that there is a clear-cut role for Janson Junk when he limits free passes as well as he does. 2.9 walk percentage, 99th percentile if you go off of Savant. And he's somebody that has numerous pitches. He's not just a 2-3 pitch guy. He's got a fastball, a slider, a sweeper, because Miami is sweeper university. And then he has a curve and a changeup to work off that as well. I think he's a fascinating pitcher that I don't think should be counted out heading into spring training for a rotation spot, because we saw the strides he made from bouncing around the league, never really having an opportunity to stick somewhere and showcase what he's got for the long haul, to now being a Marlin, starting 16 games, going 100+ innings, and doing it successfully for the most part. So in 2026, how much better can he get? Can he take another step forward? What is Daniel Moscas? What is Bill Hazel, director of pitching for the Marlins? What do they have cooked up to improve Junk's game and get him to be a better pitcher? Because we're all about striving to be better. It's not complacency. There's no sitting there saying, well, I had a good year. Nobody expected that out of me. I'm going to roll into 2026 expecting to do it again. No, it's about taking that next step. And you can apply that all the way down the list. Unless you're Tarek Skubal, Paul Skeens, Garrett Crochet for the Marlins. I mean, even for the Marlins, Sandy Alcantara. Like, you have to work for it. And those guys, I'm not saying they don't work for it. That's what makes them great. Paul Skeens is actively thinking, how can I get better? How can I continue to develop as a pitcher? But he's so much more talented than, the average big league arm. And that's the point I'm going with. You can't afford, if you're a back end type starter, to be complacent in any regard. So if you're Skeens, maybe you can get away with it, but I think part of the reason that makes him great is because he works so hard. And this is what this Marlins rotation, top to bottom, this is what they have to do. They have to continue to get better. Bright spots here and there, that's awesome. Let's do it consistently now. Let's continue to be excellent. Pursue excellence every single day. For Janson Junk, that means going into 2026 in Grapefruit League play with a loaded room behind him, plenty of guys to compete, and just go out there and earn it. Can't wait to see what happens with him and his spot in the rotation. Coming up next, I'm going to finish up the current 40-man roster. There's a couple names we have to get to. One very polarizing name. I'm going to give you my take on him right after this. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. And I know I'm busy. I got a lot of stuff on my plate, and I'm not the best financial guy, definitely in terms of organizing it with spreadsheets and everything. So that's where Monarch is great. It does the heavy lifting. You can identify that you're not saving as much as you thought. Who doesn't like saving money? Maximize your investments, increase that savings rate, of course, and then review finances with your partner or your financial advisor. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. Hit that subscribe button if you're watching on the YouTube channel, but remember, Locked On Marlins is wherever you get your podcast. Spotify, Apple, you name it, it's there. So you can listen to the show wherever you are. The Marlins' back half of the rotation it's a mystery at this point, because I talked about how Janson Junk was impressive, and yet if Braxton Garrett and Ryan Weathers enter 2026 healthy, I am struggling to see where he slots into the rotation. Unless this team feels completely different about Braxton Garrett than I do, it's tough to see what's going to happen. Here's another polarizing player and a decision that the Marlins are going to have to make, and make pretty quickly, I think. And that's, what do you do about Max Meyer? Max Meyer, former top 5 pick from 2020, best slider in college baseball, best slider in the draft. He comes to the Marlins. He works his way through the system, makes his major league debut. Boom, Tommy John surgery. So the long road back to Tommy John. He gets back. And the results have been inconsistent to say the least. They just have. He hasn't shown me that he can be an above average or even adequate major league starter over a full season. And so here's what I suggest the Marlins do. They're going to have to make a trade. And I think you have to consider trading from your depth in the rotation. And Max Meyer is one of the names that I keep going back to. And this might answer the question with Janson Junk as well. If there's a trade ahead of Junk, one of the names that I listed ahead of him, then Junk there is in the rotation. Maybe you move Janson Junk. I don't know. But Max Meyer is somebody you have to at least consider moving on from, because I talk about Janson having a tough path to the major league rotation when everyone's healthy. Goodness, can you look at the road Max Meyer has to get back? I think it would take a disaster. I think multiple guys would have to be injured, and Max would have to have a great spring training and show serious signs of improvement in terms of his stuff. He just doesn't have a good fastball. It can't survive at the major league level, and he doesn't have a plus changeup. And when you factor two meh pitches with one really good pitch that you consistently try to throw to get outs, major league teams are going to recognize that, and that's what they did. Yeah, his slider's really good. It can take over ball games at times. But when you overuse the slider, you can have what happened to you against the Athletics back in early May. You guys are going to start homering off of it. And then everything crumbles apart because your fastball and changeup aren't good enough to coast you through 5-6 innings. If your slider isn't on point, if it's not at its absolute best, and your other two pitches aren't good, that spells trouble. Would there be interest surrounding Max Meyer? I think there would have to be. Former first-round pick, showed glimpses, certainly. 14 strikeouts a year ago. Well, a season ago. Hasn't been a year yet. Last season against the Reds. I mean, at that point, I was looking at Meyer like this was the breakout. The All-Star campaign's underway. I think you can go back through my Twitter feed and find that about Max Meyer. Probably did a podcast about it. I mean, I was excited. And then the inconsistencies arose. And we're kind of back to square one. Ryan Gusto is the other arm the Marlins acquired at the trade deadline. He made 14 starts with Houston. And it went okay. Nothing spectacularly great about it. Pitched in 24 games, 14 starts, 86 innings, an ERA of 4.92, 87 strikeouts. So average about a strikeout an inning. I like what I see out of Gusto. I like the fastball. He was a very fastball heavy pitcher with his time in Houston. Came over, spent the majority of the rest of the year with the Jumbo Shrimp. He did make 3 starts. 1 start, pretty good, struck out 8 Atlanta Braves. And then after that, the last 2 starts he made with the Marlins, got to say they were disappointing. He got blown up against the Braves his second time. That time was at home. And he also gave up 5 runs against the Blue Jays in 6 innings. Still, they got him for a reason. He was part of the Jesus Sanchez trade. He's somebody that I view as a depth piece at this point, a great depth piece, because I actually really like Ryan Gusto. But much like the same, I think it's tough to envision him just breaking into the Marlins starting rotation. And I haven't even talked about Robbie Snelling and Thomas White. They're not on the 40-man roster. Robbie Snelling probably deserves to be. I think Snelling could be pitching in the opening day rotation, and I would have no qualms about that. In fact, if they decide to do that, that would mean he's really, really good. Really good. So this ties me into the last point I'll make, and I'm running out of time, so I got to end it here soon. The Marlins are going to have to make a trade. They're going to have to make a trade from this depth. It's come to a point where you're going to be wasting bullets in AAA and not seeing what guys have if you don't make a trade. If you can address other parts of the roster while still maintaining a very good level of depth in your system and benefit the rest of your organization, I think you have to do that, excluding Sandy, excluding Eury, excluding Edward. But hey, if you get a good offer for Ryan Weathers and you don't sell low, even, coming off of the injury, because you know how good Ryan Weathers is when he's healthy, other teams see that as well. I think you have to take calls. Same goes for, Max Meyer. Prospects, you're not trading Snelling, you're not trading Thomas White. So, going to be interesting to see what the Marlins do. We're going to wrap it up here. That has been the 40-man roster breakdown. This was the starting rotation. I appreciate you guys for listening, tuning in. Until next time, stay safe, stay locked on, and let's go fish.